Shaitanirrajim, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Assalamu alaikum, and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I'm your host Hajra Satti, and joining me is my wonderful co-host Shahzad Qayyum. Assalamu alaikum, Shahzad. How are you doing on this fine Monday morning in Islamabad?
Wa alaikum assalam, Hajra. Actually, there are two things. One, the weather was clear today. You know, we're having this monsoon spells which are actually gripping pretty much the entire country, but today was a bit sunny. This morning it was hazed, but not as bad as it looked like. And the other thing that I'm excited about is the cricket match which is going to take place in our city, Rawalpindi.
And that's very interesting because when I was commuting from my home to the workplace, I could see the gathering of the clouds. So, but again, for the couple of, I think, weeks, the weather has been really kind and pleasant to us. Although it is accompanied by the humidity, but I think that is also one of the season of monsoon, and we are very lucky, we are very blessed living in Pakistan that we can experience the diversity in the weather patterns, not just that, along with the landscapes. But Shahzad, I have a question in my mind. So, as a human, you go through ups and downs of the life. There are moments when you're feeling really high. There are moments when you're feeling very low. So what do you do in your lowest moments, in your weak moments? How do you, handle that phase of your life?
Well, it's very simple, Hajra. Basically, when you feel down in any part of your life, you know, whether it's work, whether it's, personal or anything, you always focus for the moment which is coming next towards you. Okay. That's the key element right there. Okay. So instead of just sitting, bragging, crying, whining about what's happening right now, focus on what's coming ahead towards you, and let's get prepared for that stuff right there.
And that's an interesting approach, because a lot of literature that I have been reading on the self-help, they constantly talk about living in the moment, do not focus a lot on controlling what is going to happen next or what is going to come in the future. But again, we can save that debate for some other day. But now, one of my professors who used to say about the communication and the development of the language is that the evolution of the language is the single biggest hurdle that humanity has created, and has created a lot of conflicts. So how much this assertion of his is true, we are going to explore, because there are lots of communication challenges. We do face that, and we do feel that sometimes what we intend to put out there, message does not go, it does not become effective, and that is why a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding take place, and then that can create obviously a lot of havoc.
Exactly, and that's why they say it is sometimes, not all the time. It says that, how they say it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Exactly. And it's very important that you need to watch out your words, how they are rolling it out, and what sort of connotations are being attached. But when we talk about the workplace challenges, there are lots of workplace challenges. For example, if you're new in the workplace, I do believe that at some point, all of the employees, or majority of them, must have felt that, heavy use of the jargon or overly complex term, overly complicated terms might create a lot of communication barriers for a lot of new employers. So how to deal with that, and then again how to create a synergy in the workplace, and then if you are in a toxic work environment, how to handle with that situation, because obviously there are a lot of times when you do not have option for changing the job. So how to deal with all of these challenges, how to make sure that you are an effective communicator, and especially if you're an introvert and you are not good at communicating, but you're really hard working employer, how to deal with all of these challenges. We are very glad that we have been joined by someone who happens to be a very effective communication trainer. She is Miss Iram Rizvi. Assalamu alaikum, Miss Iram, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Assalam. Thank you for inviting.
It's wonderful having you. And Miss Iram, now let's roll back a conversation, kick started. So you have a vast work experience. You've experienced in the Middle East, you have experience in the Pakistan. What are some of the common workplace challenges that you feel as a communication trainer exist in both our societies?
Communication in itself.
Okay.
People do not use right words. People do not use right body language. For example, if I just sit and normally tell someone that you have done a great job, but then that doesn't show on my face, the person knows that you're not saying it from the heart. Whereas in my records, I would say, okay, day and night I've been praising him. Right. But you don't show it through your expressions, your eyes, your hand gestures. Similarly, if you're giving someone a feedback and you do not have a light tone, that you've done this thing very great, I like the way how you handle administration, however I did not like the way how you're doing your phone calls, the way you're handling the customers on the call, so I would request you to give it more short, do practice. At that time you're using a very hard tone while giving them feedback. So most of the time the issues that arrive in any kind of culture is the way how we communicate and the words that we use.
Right. And speaking about communication gap, and you very rightly highlighted that, now let's delve into a safe spaces that we can create in the workplace, right? There's a lot of conversation that how overly capitalist our societies are getting, right? So money making is the only way, and especially in the corporate sector, we keep hearing about people saying that they have to work very hard in order to in order to succeed, and we do not see a very effective results, right, in terms of the promotion. And obviously validation is the one of the key important point, like you highlighted. As a human nature, we need validation in order to have more effective or productivity in us, right? So how do you think we can build that a more safe environment, safe spaces in the office, in the workplace, so that employees can be more productive and effective?
Now, this starts from level top. So, the first leader, the C levels, the directors, the presidents of the company, they have to start implementing. And remember, whenever there is a pressure that comes down, you know, that huge pressure that the lowest tier of your company faces, that's because it starts from the top. So, when the top tier is not going to take care of their team, similarly, they are going to shuffle it down to the teams below them. So, it's like a funnel that comes down, and by the time it reaches to the people who are actually facing the customer and handling your issues, by the time the pressure comes to them, it is so hard that they end up either losing their motive towards work or they leave the organization. Every leader needs to remember that everyone, even if they are leaving your organization, they are the ambassador of your company.
Right.
So when someone has worked somewhere for 2 years, and if while you're asking them their introduction, you will feel from the way they're introducing that how their workplace experience was. So if you feel that someone is not doing well and you start treating them in a certain way which is not acceptable just because you're not happy with the way they're working, once they leave this organization and they get into an organization where they are performing, they're going to reference about you.
Right.
That, you know, please don't go there. When someone will get in touch, you know, how is that ABC organization? Arey bhai, forget about them, don't go there, they gave me a hard time. They are your ambassadors for lifetime. So to bring the positivity or to bring the change, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yes.
It has to start from the coaching from the top.
Right, right. I'm glad that you just mentioned about the treatment. It just something just popped up in my mind. When we talk about treatment, equal opportunity, equal treatment, there is a huge challenge that people face in the workplace, and that's favoritism. How do you think people should handle that? Because it's a very common practice, I would say, that a lot of people, where they have some favorite people and individuals at the workplace, so obviously they lean towards them more than the other ones, which actually takes all the enthusiasm and energy away from the person who's suffering. How that person should actually cope with that?
So I learned from one school, and this is a very smart school in Gulberg Greens, that when I asked them that, you know, how do you take care of that, how the children, they are doing any mischief in the class, bringing something in the school which should not be allowed, any illegal stuff. So they said that we have our small, you know, these favorites, kids, and nobody knows about them, that who they are. So they come to them, you know, while roaming around in break time, they give us the news that, you know, somebody has brought something that should not be there, but we don't let them know.
Spies.
Yes, spies. I was not trying to say that. Smart leaders don't let their favorites know. This is the difference. But the leaders who are not very smart, they let very openly know that this is my favorite, and the favorite person misuses that position. They do not do their actual job, they do not do their actual job description. They are very busy in how others are doing their job and performing their job descriptions. So this is something that you need to recognize, that you can't change a leader or that manager, I would not call them leader, who does not know the difference between, you do have your favorites. I will have one or two loyal people around me who would tell me the pulse of the organization. I need them. Every leader needs them. But a leader is not very smart who lets everybody know who their favorite is.
And differentiate.
Yes. So they have to behave as if, you know, everyone is equal.
Yes.
So if he's a smart leader, he would do that. He would keep everyone equal. And of course, if I had my startup and I did that, I had my favorite person, but nobody knew. So in one of the meetings when I asked, do you know who's my favorite? Everybody raised their hand. So they thought they all are. So you need to be very smart in not letting it know. Once you start doing favoritism, you will start breaking your team. Because one person would know clearly that, you know, however hard I work, this person is going to get an undue credit. And undue credit does not even spoil organization, it even spoils the environment of your home. If you have
That's
4
very true.
siblings and one of them is favorite, you will see that they will never have teamwork,
That's
they will
true.
never have proper conflict resolution, they don't negotiate well, they don't plan up well.
That's
Because you
true.
have a favorite child. So
That's
when
true.
it doesn't work in your home, how could it work in an organization?
That's very true, and I think so. Now, since you very subtly mentioned about the personality types, so now let's delve into that conversation. So, for example, in an organization, there are people who are introverted in the nature, there are people who are extroverted in the nature, right? And then there's a third category who might not be a very hard-working employees, but they're very good at selling themselves, right? And in that entire scenario, people who are very hardworking, who might be introverted, they get somehow subdued in that work environment. So how to effectively say no in your workplaces, because either you are introverted, you are not very good at communication skills, and I mean you are getting a lot of undue burden, which might not be your case, right? So how to create that balance?
Oh, Hajra, that's my pain, one of the pain topics
That's
around,
true.
because I have seen very closely, whether I was in Tech Data, Microsoft, Cisco, IBM, Schneider, I have seen everywhere one person in my team who is an introvert, who is the backbone of the team, and he's the best person
Hardworking
because
as
of
an
him.
ant, yes.
It's because of him that the team is running, but he does not have the skills of presentation. He does not usually tell in the meeting openly that I did it, and there are other people who take the credit.
Oh,
Now the
yes.
thing is that these people, I have noticed that they're very comfortable
They're
in
free
being
riders,
introvert.
actually,
Yeah,
yes.
and these people are very comfortable to take the credit.
That's
That, you know, let me know what's happening. I will go and present it because you can't do it. So they do,
And it actually sells.
and it sells.
That's very
It sells,
important.
and I think the introverts need to step up, get some skills, get some presentation skills done. You know, do some courses around presentation mastery or something of that sort. Join Toastmasters Club. You know, get that skill that is required to at least present technically. So most of the introverts, when you ask them to present something, they go all technical, completely technical, and then the business team does not understand, and then there is a salesperson or someone in the team that takes the credit, that let me do it, and they get the promotion, they get all the recognition and credit. So these guys who are introverts, they really need to slightly, so I would say that whenever they say I'm introvert or someone says I'm extrovert, both of them should not be too proud in what they are. They should be somewhere, the percentage should not be always that, you know, I'm 100%, it has to be 80-20 or 70-30. You have to try and at least sell what you're doing. Your designs should be presented by you. So in every meeting, what I did a change was, I've done in the last 2 of my organizations,
Right.
that whenever I would go for a meeting, I'll take the technical person along with me. I'll speak on the commercial, he speaks on the technical, so he gets an equal stage share. And this is the only way you can build them up, make them technical managers, engineering directors, let them grow to that level. Only when you take them for meetings and let them have that exposure of speaking to customers, they get that kind of skill.
But Ms. Hiram, the workplace that you are talking about is a very conventional workplace, a corporate workplace, right? Where people are working, they're physically present on the space. Now, if we talk about this coming generation, or the generation that is actually now working, the millennials or Generation Z or whatever jargons you would like to name them, they're working in a very different sort of a corporate sector. So they might not like to be very suited, booted. They want to be in a casual clothes, but they're very effective in their productivity. And when we talk about post-COVID situation, so a lot of businesses have realized the potential to how they can effectively manage their employees from their homes, right? So home-based work or has progressed potentially, right? So do you think that coming digitally or online, it has helped the cause of the introverted people who might be afraid of expressing themselves in a crowded gatherings? Because I mean, let's accept that it requires a lot of confidence, and not everyone has that, right?
Yes.
So how do you see that dynamics changing in this 21st century, and especially post-COVID?
So I would say that good organizations were already doing 1 or 2 days remote work before the COVID. However, COVID made us realize that a lot of work could be done from home by letting them wear shorts and just sit on the Zoom by wearing a jacket on the top, where we really recommend that be fully dressed. You never know when you have to run from the camera. So we have realized that, all corporates have realized that, and they have really accepted. Now if you go to most of the corporates, even the 100-year-old like Schneider and all, you will see that they're not really wearing suits unless and until they have a meeting with the customer. So we are really talking about being comfortable in what you do, but of course an acceptable casual wear, an acceptable language that is professional language to be used. So not too much of, you know, going on yar and all that and abe and all that. We don't do that. So it's very important that you stay in that bracket of professionalism, but dresses are no longer the #1 requirement in the office workplace for idea thinking, for brainstorming, for design thinking. We are more focused now on what exactly the content is. So while you're saying that, you know, going on Zoom was very comfortable for introverts and all, by the way, this is true. I think that was a blessing in disguise for a lot of engineers and introverts, that they are now comfortable coming on screen. So you will see most of the very good engineers, they like to have Zoom meetings. That, you know, let's do it on Zoom, because they don't have to move their hands, they don't have to move their body, they can focus on the content. And the best practice is to put a presentation on that. So you do a presentation, show yourself small, and that really covers up the whole part. So you are very right. In your question itself, you have answered that after COVID, yes, a lot of people, a lot of introverts, a lot of organizations have opened up for being remote. Right now, if you write your role on LinkedIn and select remote, you will be surprised that you will get at least 500 positions open, out of which 70% would be remote. And all over the world.
Ms. Iram, how to say no when you really want to say no, but for some reasons you're unable to say because you have very people-pleasing tendencies within you?
Give me an example. Give me an example. I'll tell you how to say no.
Okay, so for example, you know, a boss has given you a task and you know that it's not your responsibility to do that because that should be designated for someone else, but you're unable to say no because of the people-pleasing tendency, or, you know, might be you have those generational patterns imbibed from your household or from generation to generation. So how can I say no to that person, because I know it's a boss, and if I say no, I have that fear that I might be.
You tricked me in that question, by the way. So if your colleague or someone slightly senior says it, it's different, but when a boss says it, it's different. So usually when the boss says it, you see the merit of, is it important or is it urgent, right? And if it is important, you immediately handle it in that way, that all right, I'm going to go, I'm going to involve Mir and ask him to do it, because I was on that task, remember, that which was very important, to give it to you by 2 o'clock. So you have to remind the boss that you put me on something else, which is actually my work. So I'm finishing that. Do you want me to drop that? So most of the time these comments, they are countered by questioning, that should I drop the proposal for customer A? So you want me to do this, or can I pass it to Mir because he's good at it? So you immediately put on a question to the boss. So when he says, drop your actual job description and do this, it's his stake. Then you drop the actual work which was required and you do it. But most of the time the bosses would say, realize at that moment that, oh, this was not his job. He was already on a task that I gave him before, which is his task. I'm supposed to give it to somebody else. So he would delegate it to that person. If it is someone senior, slightly senior, not exactly your boss, but usually, you know, because of your personality of not saying no, he comes to you again and again. You have to say, my calendar is full at the moment. I have some deadlines. Do you mind putting it up in the calendar for me, sending an invite? Most of the time, when it is their task, they would never send it written to you. They would never put it on your calendar, because then there is a record that they let their task to be done by you. So when you push people to start using calendars, now again, Zoom is a blessing.
Channels,
yes, remote is a blessing, because when people want your time, they want to take your calendar, right? So you will have to put in the calendar. It's very easier when you do it in a walking corporate. You make somebody do it, but while you're on a remote setup, it's amazing to do only the work which is yours.
Ms. Iram, also, there is a very important thing that I just, there are two things actually. One is that, you know, I just want to share my 2 cents in it. When a boss says something, I'll do it because I'm the person who does above and beyond.
Yeah.
That's how I roll. So now the other very crucial aspect of our society, I just wanted to, you know, an example is that for the past, I think, a year or so, we've been witnessing a lot of females, women. They are actually driving scooters, and I get so happy when I see that on the road. Trust me, I do, you know, and whenever I'm commuting with someone, I just tell them, you know, this is, if I had a daughter, I would buy her a scooter so she could drive around, you know. Workplace, back to our topic, okay. We have so many female workers, they're contributing equally in the society when it comes to the betterment of the country. So a lot of things are taking place. Obviously, things are changing gradually, not if rapidly, but we are witnessing some changes at the workplaces. But still, there are a lot of problems for the females at the work. You know, there are so many challenges that they face. Would you be kind enough to share some of the thoughts or your views regarding how to counter those challenges
For the females.
for the females?
So one of the challenges is that, you know, they are not paid equally. This is everywhere, by the way. This is not just in Pakistan, it's all over the world. This is one of the biggest points of women equality. When we say they are paid equally, they're given the rights equally, that, you know, if a man can go for a meeting, a woman can also go. If a man can drive, a woman can drive. If a man can
I think
stand, a
we are
woman can
blessed
stand.
enough in PTV that
So-
we don't face that sort of
Alhamdulillah.
discrimination in the pay.
So this is literally everywhere. But the organizations, the good organizations, even they are small sized. I have seen 5-6 people sized companies who really take care of their female staff, and I really like and I believe that, you know, we should be taken care of. I'm saying it on national TV that I'm not too feminist, so I like that, you know, somebody opens the door for me, someone he says that, you know, Iram, it's all right, you stay in the office, I'll handle it physically, you can connect through Zoom. I would like that. So I know that I can do a lot of things, but if there is someone who's being gentleman, if someone is being caring, I really admire that.
Right.
Because I have a much bigger force of work. I even have professional life, I even have a personal life, and I love the men who understand that. And now people have started understanding. You will see the language in leaders now that they talk about, you know, my wife does it. So now we have this generation where men have seen their wife working, they have seen their mothers working, they are seeing their sisters working. So men are turning empathetic. It's only some challenges, at some places there are challenges where they don't understand, where they say, if you can't do it, you can leave. But let me tell you, there are very few. Most of the places they are very understanding, and they let you perform as per how the female should do. For example, your wife is expecting, she's pregnant, and your wife says at workplace that I have an appointment at 3 o'clock, I would leave by 2:30, sir, is it okay? And you can
Right.
physically see.
Right.
The boss will not say no. However, if the man goes and say, I have to take my wife to the hospital, yeah, you should have booked a time for evening. Okay, can you push it to 5 o'clock? There will be a statement. So that's something which is a reality. That,
Right.
you know, women get that kind of
Advantage.
support, and men don't. So we need to understand that when we talk about a lot of equality and things, do we really want that money value, or do we like to get the support?
Right.
I would actually go, I like money. Of course, everybody likes to get equal
Of course.
paid, but I would actually go for an organization that takes care of me as a woman.
That's true.
Compared to the other gender.
And Mr. Iram, one last question because of the paucity of the time. Since Shahzad mentioned that, and I would like to further develop that conversation on that, and he mentioned a phrase called going above and beyond, right?
Yes.
Do you think it's a strength in an organization, or is it a weakness? Because if you are not being paid that much, or if you're not getting the promotions, then working above and beyond for a corporate organization, and your sweat and blood is going to benefit that organization, that corporate, not you. So is it a strength or a weakness?
It's a weakness if they are not recognizing. If you do not have every 3 months of review or a 6 months of review and yearly appraisals, you will even getting, you know, people awards every quarter, that, you know, who was the best salesperson, who was the best
Recognition.
technical person, recognitions and awards. It's very important to do that regularly. We usually die out for hearing good stuff. We just want to know that I'm doing good work. We really die out for a pat on the back.
Yeah,
Like, you know, just a pat on the
exactly.
back
That
that
makes
it's
a
going
lot of
great.
difference, yeah.
And that should happen weekly. That should happen monthly. And as per the whole organization, you should have an yearly review. If you're
Right.
not doing appraisals, if you're not doing review, at least give them a feedback that why you don't deserve one. So it should be justified. And if it is justified that they're doing great, then they should get an increment or a position raise. If not, you're going to lose out good people. You're going to lose out a good skill.
Okay, one last question before we wrap up, Ms. Iram. So we've seen that in this digital era, we all have our digital personalities, right? We have our accounts, we have on Twitter, we're on Instagram. So what do you recommend for the younger people, the graduates who want to go into the workplace environment? How do they need to deal with their digital footprints, that
Yeah.
is their Twitter account, which is a public platform, and does that affect their hiring chances, or does that affect their personality in the workplace? How do you advise them as a communication trainer?
Absolutely, it affects. Absolutely. I used to do in my startup times, at that time before hiring someone, and in Dubai, I would look at what their social views are.
Oh, yes.
If someone is talking about politically something very harsh, and then of course if you have an open profile, most of the people, of course, they have their Insta and all open, their LinkedIn. LinkedIn is still professional, people know how to do it. Unfortunately, now also we are seeing on LinkedIn, when some political post is done, below the comments are very rude, and I keep that person in my mind, that if someone cannot hold their comments on a professional setup, they will not do it in the office, because we have learned that even in your office there is one or two person in your team who's very loud about religious or political comments.
Right.
Just stay quiet, don't become a part of it, because
Right,
when
right.
you talk, you actually are giving him what he wants.
Right.
So better keep quiet and move out. But if you can't keep quiet on LinkedIn, this means you will do the same thing in the office place.
Yep.
Similarly,
Right.
if your Insta and Facebook is very loud about political things and about religious stuffs, you know, probably attacking some other sector, some other religion, it affects your hiring process. So I really advise you, go back, look at your LinkedIn in the view of how is it seen by an outsider. Instead of putting it private, delete it. It's not worth it. It's going to badly affect your career.
That's very true, and that is why I advocate that your social media account, your digital footprint is not actually your private diary. It's a public platform. Everyone can see that, and that will affect your personality out there. So be careful about how you churn out your personalities and how you write and how you express yourself, because obviously effective communication requires you know, how you deal effectively in the digital arena too. Thank you so much, Ms. Irem,
Thank
for
you.
coming to our show, for having this wonderful cross-pollination of the ideas on the workplace communication challenges and how can we make a workplace a more better and a healthy environment in which individuals can flourish and progress apart from the corporation and the institutions too. So with that, we are going on a short break. After we come back, we have an interesting segment lined up. Don't go anywhere. Good morning. Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we had some wonderful cross-pollination of ideas on how to be a more effective communicator, and so now we will delve onto another interesting aspect or subject. So today happens to be 19th of August, it's 2024, and today happens to be the World Photography Day. And with the advent of the social media, Shahzad, no one can deny the importance of photography or photographs, because I do believe that nowadays social media is very picture-centric, it's very photo-centric. There was a time when it was dominated by the word, there were blog posts and there were Google blogs, but now because of the advent of the Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, you will see
Right.
that it's mostly picture centered. But we do, so the theme of World Photography Day is an entire day and how we can make an emotional investment, and there are lots of memories that bring up with the photography. Our team has prepared an interesting visual representation of the World Photography Day. So let's go and see the package and we come back and develop this conversation.
Day is being celebrated today. World Photography Day is a day to celebrate the art and craft of photography and the passion that people have for this genre. To celebrate this art form, World Photography Day is observed on the 19th of August each year. The day also recognizes how the purpose of this medium has evolved from documenting historic events to a mode for personal fulfillment and memory creation. The World Photography Day 2024's theme is An Entire Day. The day also encourages photographers from around the globe to share a single photo that encapsulates their world. The day honors this invention and celebrates photography as a medium that has evolved over centuries, influencing art, science, journalism, and personal expression. It serves as a global platform for photographers and enthusiasts to come together, share their passion, showcase their work, and promote the appreciation of photography worldwide. Photography is not simply a matter of aiming your camera at something and clicking the shutter. It is a form of art that requires thought and creativity. It combines art and science, capturing real-life moments and turning them into lasting memories. It is the thinking behind the photographs that is the heart and essence of photography. It captures transient moments, transforming them into timeless tales.
And that was the visual representation of the photography, and how much visual representation, when I speak this particular phrase, is important, especially in the social media, in the era of social media, and why is there need even to observe the World Photography Day. So in order to further develop this conversation and delve into the concept of photographs, we are very glad that we have been once again joined by a photographer who happens to be Masooma Zubairi. Assalamu alaikum, Masooma, and thank you so much for once again coming to our show.
Walaikum assalam, and thank you so much. I'm being very honored on this special day to be here as a photographer, as an entrepreneur, and what else?
And I think the players absolutely are. So Masooma, let's kickstart this conversation. Why is there a need to observe this day?
I think to have the perception of looking into this world from someone's eyes is very important. So I guess this is a very important genre, or maybe important practice, or important medium to know. Although it's very less, to be observed in different countries, but as per my research, 95,000 photos are taken in one day. So this one day is celebrating 95,000 pictures.
Okay. And that's a wonderful statistics. But Masooma, when we talk about 21st century, and when we talk about this particularly age and day, so we have seen that when I was in my university, I saw this trend that there were a lot of young people who every other person has their DSLR in their hands. They were clicking, they were behind the lens, capturing the moments. But now slowly those DSLR have been made redundant by a very high quality mobile phone, smartphone cameras. So when we talk about creativity, when we talk about the thought process in the picture, as a photographer, how do you put so much effort into, producing or clicking a content or a picture, because it is said the picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So how do you do that?
Well,
how do you identify a good picture?
I think your aesthetic sense, and if you're giving out something really meaningful to this world, that is what you call the best picture out of it.
Right.
So I think the best, whether it's a mobile phone or a DSLR or mirrorless cameras of worth 3 lakhs or 4 lakhs rupees, it's just that how brilliant you are out of your box.
Right.
And if the picture is good and you know the aesthetics, the framing and everything, you will get the meaning out of that picture.
Right. Also, Masooma, I have a quick question before we move forward. What actually, being a girl, what actually inspired you to become a photographer?
Well,
we don't see too many. Don't get me wrong; it's a wonderful thing, but it's not something that we see.
Well, it was first my passion. I used to take random my family pictures and my friends' pictures in my university level. But then eventually my family encouraged me, why don't you start your own business and everything. So that encouraged me a lot. Right now in this 21st century, I think family input is very important for a woman especially to move forward in this world.
Right.
That's very true. And Masooma, when we talk about the pictures, we can see that how one picture can shift the perception, can create new perception, or can shake the world. So I do remember when I was in the university, there was a small boy who was wearing a red shirt and a blue shorts. His name was Alan Kurdi, and he washed up. He was a Syrian guy who was escaping Syria and washed up on the Turkish shore. And that created a massive conversation how the crisis of the migration or the refugees needs to be dealt with more humanity, right? Because Western world was blocking their pathways. And similarly, we've seen a lot of other pictures which has shifted
but
the perception.
How difficult it was for a photographer to capture that such difficult moments. We actually cry when I see that particular pictures on social media. Even when I go to these rural areas and I interview and I take the pictures of these underprivileged people, I seriously, when I'm taking the picture, I used to cry a lot when I see their, poverty and, their problems and everything. So, Allah ka shukar hai that, we're living a very healthy life, but still, we are facing inflation in Pakistan, which gives us, whenever I interview or give such pictures on social media, so it gives a lesson to ourselves that, you know, we are better than whatever Allah has blessed us. So we should be thankful whatever they have, whatever He has given us
Right.
to.
So Masooma, I have also, you know, this photography is a subject,
Yes.
you know, and before I all thought, you know, you just grab a camera, you know, just put something in the frame, click it, and that's it. I happen to actually work with one of my colleagues. She is a photographer.
Okay.
And now that I've been working with her, and I see that what terms she uses every single day, that even if it's a simple click, she'll be like, hey, the lights, the that,
Yes.
you know, I can't even recall the terms there. Okay, that's one thing that's very informative, and yes, it plays vital role when you take a picture.
Indeed.
It has to be perfect, you know,
Yes.
in many aspects. Now, also, when in this era, with all these bells and whistles in the cameras and mobile phones, we're using a lot of filters, a lot of those things, you know, and I personally dislike them. You know,
Me too.
I think it actually takes the charm away from the
Yes, the
photography.
originality.
Your thought on that, please. Your take.
Well, I think only creating some, suspense in between your audience and clicking the original picture and then moving that picture into a Photoshop thing and, you know, creating a vibe and getting the attention. Well, I think that some of the mistake is coming from the audience as well, because they do attract such kind of pictures. But eventually, when you go into such competitions and everything, the reality of that particular person will come out eventually. You know, because if
Right.
you are using such tools and you're not allowed to use in a competition, for example, so the true aesthetic sense will be out there
Right.
eventually.
Right, and Masooma, so do you feel, because I talked about how we are living in a very picture dominated
Yes.
century, right, or picture dominated era, and like Shahzad mentioned, so with a lot of pictures, there is an information overload on the social
Yes.
media. On the Instagram, you will see, on the Snapchat, you will see, on the Twitter, you will see, because they are heavily picture dominated mediums, right? Do you feel that in the coming days or in the coming ages or in the coming years, world will get tired of this heavy or massive influx of the pictures, because, you know, too much information overload might, you know,
Frustrate people.
frustrate you,
Yes.
or in other words, it might take joy out of the little things
Yes.
that you used to perform,
Yes.
because there's so much information out there, everything is out there, you know, with one simple click, you know, you can have so many other things, so many information on your hands, and that's creating a lot of problems. So do you believe that there will come a time when people will want to move away from this picture dominated?
I totally believe and I totally agree, because it creates a lot of frustration between the people, and, you know, it gives the aggressive reaction to among the people. You know, when you start your conversation on any topic and you're frustrated about something come at the back of your mind, automatically, you know, you will get a negativity out of that person. So just to avoid that, you just stop searching or scrolling social media. There will be a time, and that we are heading towards that time, because something which has happened in our neighbors is already frustrating among a lot of women.
True.
Today.
And Masooma, like I mentioned before, that one picture could create,
Yes.
spawn a lot of debates, right? It could shift perception, it could change perception. But now we see there's so many pictures online, there's so many pictures on the social media, and with the advent of these deep fakes, do you think the picture have the same power it once used to hold, as a thing, or as a medium, or as a tool that could shift perceptions, that could spawn debates? How do you see it with the advent of the deep fakes?
I believe that, you know, there should be certain sensitivity part of from the regulation
Right.
on the social media, because not every time we're, you know, capable enough to see that particular image.
Right.
So I think the regulation should start working on that. We did already, but still we need to focus on the people, not to share something very harsh that it will impact the audience.
Now, Masooma, also when we talk about photography, you know, there's got to be something in your life, a photo, a picture, a click, which has a story behind it, or unforgettable moment, whether it was funny, whether it was, you know, something.
Any
Would-
genre.
Yeah, would you be kind enough to share that with us, please?
My experience?
Yeah, your personal, when there is something that you can't forget when you click something.
I went to Gilgit-Baltistan, and there's a bridge called Hussaini Bridge.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was on the top of the mountain, and I was screaming like hell from there. And the best part was that I took the best click of that Hussaini Bridge, and that was the best experience I ever had, on the top of the mountain, taking the best click.
Yep.
And experiencing the cold wind plus the beautiful mountains, Pasu mountains, and
Yeah,
everything.
I've been to that place. Yeah.
So yeah, it was my best experience ever.
Right, and Masuma, so we've seen this trend. When I was graduating, so a lot of people had DSLRs, a lot of people were coming up. So wedding photography is one of the genre in which people are going, because there's a lot of money in that. So do you feel that field is now saturated for a lot of young people
Yes.
who have this photography as a compassion? Because I also teach, and the communication students or mass communication students that I am teaching, the more interested in the photography or filmmaking. No one wants to be a journalist anymore, right? So how do you see the scope of this field? Do you feel that it's getting saturated, and is there scope for the newcomers in this field?
I believe yes. If you're passionate, I believe, and I always communicate these two things to my students, that if you have passion and if you have patience, you can achieve anything in your life.
Right.
So if you're interested more in like doing all these happy gold nature stories with
Right.
with your pictures, it's all good.
Right.
If you don't want to be a journalist, as earlier we've discussed about the frustration coming out of the pictures, it's all right. You can overcome whatever you want to do out of your aesthetic sense, and show the world of what you see and how you see this world.
Right, and thank you so much, Masuma, for coming here, for observing the World Photography Day, and for talking about photography or photographs, which is one of the very essential and important point in today's century. And I think every person must have thousands of the clicks with the smartphone.
Yeah, especially when you have it in your palm.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So thank you so much once again for
Welcome.
coming here, for having
Thank
this
you.
wonderful conversation. And with that, we are bidding you farewell. Until next time, it's a goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and good morning.
Good morning.